Hello everybody, I'm back with another episode of The Passenger Seat, and this video is about how to get followers on Instagram. Now, it is a very easy method that I came up with, and this will give you followers for whatever reason you want. Some people do it, because they want their content to be viewed. Some people do it because they're just shallow douchebags. But for whatever reason, this is how you do it, if you ever wanted to know. And this is really, really easy. I have a story that I want to tell you about how it works, but I'm going to skip that. I guess I'm going to get to it later. And I'm just going to tell you right now how to get followers on Instagram really easily. You don't have to be good looking, you don't have to use special hashtags, you don't have to post pictures at all. But this is what you do. You go to the search bar on Instagram and you type in shout out. Okay? Now this is going to give you a lot of shout out pages. Now you want to find a shout out page that has more than, say, 50,000 followers. Okay? And what you do is you follow that page as well as 10 to 12 other shout out pages of the same size. And what that's going to do is it's going to get you followers. Don't worry about how it works. I'm going to tell you how it works, but if you're not curious as to how it works, you can do that right now, and you can just shut this video off. You don't have to watch it. But what you do once you follow them is you wait, say, an hour or 45 minutes or something like that, and you come back to Instagram and you unfollow those same accounts and you follow them right back. And so as long as you regularly unfollow those accounts and follow them right back, you're going to get followers. Boom. Really easily. Like within minutes of following these pages. Now I'm going to tell you how that works. And to tell you how that works, I'm going to have to tell you a story about a boy who was a sophomore in college in January of 2013. This boy's me. I'm talking about me. And I'm going to stop talking in third person. I had 87 followers on Instagram, okay? And this was before things popped off on Vine for me. I think right now I have right now I have 58,000 followers on Instagram. But that's because of Vine and stuff like that. Before Vine I had 10K for no reason at all. Everybody was like, why do you have so many followers on Instagram? And I was like, I gotta figure it out. And he was like, well, don't worry about it. It's my secret. And now I'm sharing that secret with you. I just did. But I wanted more followers on Instagram. I had 87 at this point, and I was like, how do I get there? I decided that I was gonna just like a bunch of pictures. I was like, if I liked a bunch of pictures, show some love out in the Instagram world, maybe people will come back and like my stuff and follow me. And so I just typed in a hashtag, like, funny or selfie or, nature, and would just like a whole bunch of pictures. And this got me a few likes back. Some people didn't, appreciate that I like their material and they check me out and like my stuff, but I didn't really get followers from it. I was like, this is not what I'm trying to do. I want followers. I want likes, I want followers. So I was like, that's not gonna work. So what I did is I went to a shout out page, like a shout out page that has like 300,000 followers. And I looked at the bio and it said, if you like 5 pictures, shout us out and follow this account, we'll give you a shout out on the page. And I was like, okay, cool. I understood that there was probably a whole lot of other people trying to get shout outs, so demand was high and not everybody would get shout outs, so it'd be a lot of unhappy people. But I tried to give it a shot. I tried this with maybe 6 or 7 different accounts, and I think I got a shout out on one of them, which felt pretty good because they had like maybe 75,000 followers, but I didn't get any followers from it. And that makes sense. If I see somebody shouting somebody out, I'm like, I'm not going to follow you just because somebody shouted you out. I don't care. And so I was like, okay, that's not going to work either. So I was like, wow, what do I do? This is when I came up with a brilliant idea. I said, you know what? I bet a whole lot of these shout out pages tell people to follow their personal account. Like, why wouldn't you? If you have a shout out page with, a large amount of followers, why wouldn't you tell people to follow your personal account? It's just, you just benefit from the activity of your page. So I was like, that's genius. I was like, so let me make a shout out page. I made my own shout out page and I called it Swag Shoutouts 100. And it might still be out on Instagram somewhere. I don't know the password to it anymore. But I created a page called Swag Shoutouts 100. And I wanted to find people that would want shout outs. And so I thought for a minute and I was like, how do I find people who want shout outs? And then I thought, well, I guess everybody who follows huge shout out pages, pretty much anybody who follows any shout out page wants a shout out. So I was like, okay, let me just type up these same shout out pages that I used to go to, and let me just follow the people who are following them. And so I went to the same shout out page that I went to the first time with 300,000 followers and followed a bunch of their followers. I just tapped on the number and followed everybody who had just followed that account, because since they just followed the account, then I knew that they were on Instagram. They were on Instagram currently, and that they would definitely want a shout out. They were online. And so just as I thought, a whole lot of people who had just followed the huge shout out page checked out my shout out page and followed me. And so since they saw the low number of my followers, they were like, you know what? There's less competition here. I'm probably definitely going to get a shout out on this page. And so a lot of them followed me. A lot of them followed my personal account. Because on my shout out page, I said, follow Mixed Legendarius and I'll give you a shout out. And so a whole lot of people followed my personal page, and I went from 87 followers to around 800. And it took a whole lot of shout outs. It was a smart idea, but it took a whole lot of screenshotting people's profiles and shouting them out and coming up with some really lame caption like, oh, follow my guy, I don't know, Derek Jeter 95 or something, you know. And it just took a lot of work. It took a lot of work. And I didn't feel like it. After a time, I was like, this is just too much. I don't like it. So I decided that I was going to come up with something even easier. And this is where the game changed. This is where I came up with the method that I just gave you at the beginning of this video. I thought, you know what? I bet you there's a whole lot of other small shout out pages that are doing the same exact thing I'm doing right now. They're going to large shout out pages, following their followers, and trying to get those people to follow their personal account. And so I decided to test it out. I logged out of my shout out page forever. Logged into my personal account and just followed the 15 big shout out pages that I told you about at the beginning of the video. And what happens is that the followers that you get are smaller shout out pages. All these smaller shout out pages are doing the same thing that I was doing with my shout out page. I was like, wow, I didn't know that there were that many people out here. And so I just kept on doing that. You know, I was like, okay, let me just stay on the top of the list on the big shout out page. I was like, let me unfollow, follow back, unfollow, follow back, unfollow, follow back all day long. And I did this for weeks. And it got me to 10,000 followers. And I mean, they didn't like anything, but I still had 10,000 followers, you know? And so I felt cool about that because you just feel cool about having a lot of followers on stuff. But whatever, that's the story. That's the story, and that is where the trick comes from, and that is how it works. And I hope it makes sense to everybody. I'm talking kind of fast. But anyway, that is what I figured out when I was a sophomore in college, and I shared it with a couple of friends. It was kind of a hush-hush secret. We didn't want the secret to get out, but I guess it's out now. Wow. So I guess if as long as you guys don't tell everybody, it'll still work. But I don't know if it works as effectively as it did when I used it. But check it out. And if you know it works, write some in the comments. Give me a thumbs up. I bet you it will. I bet you it will. I'm not going to bet you money because I don't really have that much. But I will metaphorically bet you that my method works. So yeah, do that and subscribe if you want to. I post videos something like weekly. This one's kind of late in the week, but I post videos every week. So subscribe and watch and